Is there anyone in this house who was a part of this ill-conceived policy, whose business it was to profit from the great transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich?
Hello, JPU Nation. Welcome to another episode of Jamaica Politics Uncovered. Guys, take your seats because this is going to be long. I am sure that you guys all saw the drama that played out in our parliament yesterday. Prime Minister Andrew Holness made his 10th budget presentation in the Jamaica Parliament yesterday, March 20th, 2025. So let us dissect it. I'm going to let you hear the key moments, the highlights of yesterday from my perspective. And of course, I am going to be commenting on each of those. Just so you're not in too much of a suspense, I'm just going to let you examine real quick the body languages of some members of the opposition. Here you have Member of Parliament Michael Phillips with his chin to his palm, looking concerned, hopeless, shocked maybe. There you have Mark Golding, leader of the opposition, with his head buried in his phone majority of the time. Face all screwed up, and then he finally walked out. Let's get into it, guys. So what did Andrew Holness bring to the debate? The Prime Minister had a strategy, and I'm going to show it to you. But it was a very good strategy which worked for him. First, he took about 60 seconds to big up him wife, big up him mother, big up him colleagues, big up everybody, his constituents. And after that 60 seconds, all hell broke loose. Remember, it was just a few days ago that Mark Golding stood in the parliament and spoke, made his presentation. And Andrew Holness had to sit there and take it. It was his turn, and this was his strategy. After the 1 minute greeting and pleasantries, Andrew Holness first explained to the Jamaican people what was FinSAC. Then he connected Mark Golding to FinSAC. Then he established unity, consensus, rapport with the opposition. He gave Portia, Dr. Phillips, their flowers for their participation in the economic stability that Jamaica sees today. He also kind of made a little joke with Paulwell, as if to say, hey, we're on the opposite side, but we're okay. So what Andrew Holness strategically did was alienate Mark Golding from his predecessor and his colleagues. Andrew Holness strategically and successfully showed Jamaica that Mark Golding is from the school of Rise United movement, which includes P.J. Pattison, Omar Davis, Peter Bunting, Mark Golding, and connected them all to the 90s, which is what we know as the FinSAC era. Then the Prime Minister went on to show the country what his government has done over time. He used data to explain and to compare what the PNP has been over the last 2 decades and what his government has been over the last almost a decade now, 10 years. So he used data to show the people and put the two together in front of the Jamaican people. And then he put the focus on the Jamaican people today to say, this is the next chapter. This is where we're going now. And with that, he said that, they're going to raise the minimum wage to 16,000, among other things. And that is when Mark Golding walked out of the parliament. Guys, I'm going to play some videos. You take a listen, and I'll comment shortly.
One period of debt distress was from the 1990s to the late 2010s. And it stemmed largely from the PMP's policy during the FinSAC era, which collapsed financial institutions, wiped out the business class, and triggered a prolonged recession worsened by the 2008 to 2009 global financial crisis. In the mid-1990s, Jamaica faced a financial sector crisis which resulted in the collapse of a number of financial institutions. The financial sector meltdown was not caused by any exogenous, meaning outside shocks or global crisis. In fact, the US, our major trading partner, had robust growth in the 1990s, averaging 3.4% per annum. This was purely caused by bad government, bad policy choices, and poor superintendence of the economy. Listen to me clearly, members. FinSAC was a homegrown domestic crisis wholly caused by the PNP, for which we are now only just recovering. Our debt to GDP prior to the advent of the FinSAC crisis was 72%. The government at the time established FinSAC to bail out the collapsed financial institutions. This bailout cost the country 42% of GDP. In other words, 42% of what we produce in any 1 year, we had to take it to pay for FinSAC. By way of comparison, the US government's bailout intervention during the global financial crisis of 2008-2009 was only 9% of their GDP. So you see the magnitude of the scale of FinSAC relative to the size of our economy. Within 6 years after the establishment of FinSAC, our debt spiraled out of control from 72% of GDP to 130% of GDP, almost doubling. That caused interest costs alone on the debt to consume almost 70% of tax revenues. So just the cost to pay for the debt, the interest, at one point cost us 70% of all the tax revenues that we collect. If you add public sector wages to that and other things that you have to pay for out of tax revenue, then you basically would have no money left. You would have no money left to fix roads, no money left to build schools, no money left to repair clinics, no money left to pay for water. So if you ever wondered, if you ever wondered why we have so much infrastructure that has been left unmaintained and now falling apart, if you ever wondered why things are the way they are, if you ever wondered, Madam Speaker, it's an important point that needs to be made. Because the average man listening might, in the background of the shrill of noise that we hear, this might go way back in their memory. And they see a pothole emerge in a road, and they wonder, why doesn't the government fix that pothole now? But they will never stop and reflect on a very important point, Madam Speaker, that when this road was built 30 or 40 years ago, what should have happened is that there should have been a reserve maintenance programmed into the budget. So today when you look at the hospital and say, why this government don't do something about it? Even if this government were to take all the money it has now, it couldn't today immediately halt and stop the deterioration. I think the public must understand this. Because, Madam Speaker, it is the same public that voted in the same PNP government over and over and over again. It is a point that needs to be understood, that the economic struggle that the country has had to restore its economy is so that it is able to have revenues steady and stable and predictable that it can then use to maintain and provide the things you want over a long period without making bad decisions to put those revenues in peril. If you want to know what drives me, Madam Speaker, is to make sure that we never go back. So, Madam Speaker, so if you want to know what is the root of our problems today, it is the bad policies of the PNP in the 1990s. Madam Speaker, they don't like to hear this. And 90% of Jamaica may not appreciate and understand it, but we're going to bring the facts. Madam Speaker, the root cause of the crisis, the FinSAC crisis, was the premature policy decisions of the PNP to liberalize the foreign exchange market in 1991 without the necessary preconditions such as reserves in place. In other words, they went to party but didn't have any money. This triggered a rapid depreciation of the Jamaican dollar and skyrocketing prices, with inflation reaching 80% in 1991 and 40% in 1992. Not having any rent money to ward off speculators, the government then tried to protect the exchange rate through exorbitant interest rates. As a result, productive enterprises, especially small businesses, were unable to service their loans, and the loans became non-performing. Mounting non-performing loans and loan defaults then caused banks to collapse. Madam Speaker, the PNP's high interest rate policy created a two-tiered economy. One where cash-rich speculators thrived while productive businesses drowned in insurmountable debt. This led to what a prominent member of the PNP described as the largest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich since slavery. Madam Speaker, who were the beneficiaries of this wealth transfer from the poor to the rich? Is there anyone in this House who was a part of this ill-conceived policy, whose business it was to profit from the great transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich? The fallout was immense. It is estimated that over 40,000 businesses collapsed, wiping out entrepreneurs and leaving thousands destitute. This decimated the manufacturing sector in Jamaica. Burdened with high-cost debt, unable to retool to keep competitive, many factories closed during this period. We recall companies like Thermoplastic, Highgate Food Products, Home Electrics, and others too numerous to name that could not survive the inhospitable climate that FinSAC created. Madam Speaker, those who formed the government that presided over this economic debacle have never apologized or even expressed any remorse. Worse, they have the audacity to lecture this administration on how to run an economy. for the next 20 years after the PNP inflicted FinSac, the FinSac shock, we basically just meandered along as a country with no attempt to fix the real problem. Our debt situation was already unsustainable when the global financial crisis hit in 2008, 2009. I think Jamaicans are coming to the understanding now that you have people who will say, I will spend this money on you because I care about you, without looking on the sustainability, whether or not that expenditure makes sense. And people who are suffering don't look behind the popularity promise. All they think it sounds good and it's going to give me immediate gratification. But what it does is to create a long-term immiseration, because you can only spend that money once. And it didn't really help you. And so you have to come back again. And so you end up in a dependency. And then that dependency, when not fulfilled, ends up in disappointment. And then people say, I can't bother with politics. This struggle that we have gone through to move our debt from as high as 140% of GDP to now 68% of GDP, and to reduce our debt servicing ratio to tax revenues from 71% to 18%, is a symbol of struggle and sacrifice. It is. But it is also putting us in a different place where each Jamaican must be vested in ensuring that whoever is the government, whichever government, that we maintain this path, because this is the only way to truly and really care for you. That's the only way, my Jamaican brothers and sisters, to care for you. We can't care for you by taking the money that we should pay down debt and spend it. We can't care for you by taking our reserves that keep the foreign exchange rate stable and go party with it. That's not how we care. How we care is to manage the government responsibly. Don't make bad policy decisions. Be frugal and prudent so that we secure long-term revenues for which we can make long-term investment in your future. This government genuinely cares for you. We were a responsible and constructive father, even in opposition. We acted in the interest of Jamaica's economic recovery. In everything we did, we chose Jamaica over narrow political partisan gain. No one on this side said that the PNP did not contribute to the national effort to restructure and reform the economy and bring down the debt. As recently as November last year, at the launch of our Next Chapter policy pivot, I said, and I quote, "Let me express my deepest gratitude to all who played a role in this transformation. Leaders from both sides of the political aisle, business leaders, our civil service, unions, members of civil society, and most importantly, the people of Jamaica. I want to specially recognize and thank the Honorable Bruce Golding, former Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller, former Prime Minister. The member, you know, Madam Speaker. Yeah, Madam Speaker, there's a running joke between myself and the member from East Kingston and Port Royal. You know, he is her adopted first son, and I am her adopted and reclaimed second son. You remember I was disowned for a little period of time. But the member from East Kingston and Port Royal know that we made up. So it was very easy for me, with no malice or ill feeling or ill will, to acknowledge the work and contribution of the Most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller. The Honorable Peter Phillips, former leader of the opposition and Minister of Finance. The Honorable Audley Manayard Shaw, former Minister of Finance. Nigel Clark, former Minister of Finance. Richard Biles, Governor of the Bank of Jamaica and former Chairman of the Economic Policy Oversight Committee, EPOC. Keith Duncan, who took over as Chairman of EPOC after Mr. Biles. All the members, and I'm eternally and always grateful to all the members of the National Partnership Council. But most of all, I want to thank the people of Jamaica for their patience, resilience, courage, and sacrifice. Jamaica's turnaround would have been impossible without the willingness of the Jamaican people to endure the hardships that they had to bear. This is my public statement for the public record as to how we on this side characterize this period of economic recovery. So this falsehood and attempt at whitewashing history, this kind of revisionism, is unnecessary, indeed undignified. Let me give a fair and balanced characterization of the historical development of the Jamaican economy. The PNP, through bad policy decisions, created the second debt crisis. They created the first one as well. The JLP took the first fundamental steps to address the problem. The PNP contributed and built on those steps, and the JLP further built on those steps and completed the reforms. While we acknowledge the work of the PNP in the national effort across administrations, any political credit they should get for contributing to the solution is totally wiped out because they are the ones whose bad policy caused the problem in the first place. To their true bipolar nature, the PNP wants to claim paternity after causing the mother, the people, so much hardship. In their last budget presentation, the leader of the opposition and the opposition spokesman on finance disingenuously accused the government of increasing taxes on the people of Jamaica. In this budget presentation, well, in the last budget presentation, the leader of the opposition said, since the JLP government came into office, they have more than doubled the annual tax take, increasing it by a massive $190,000 per person. Yet, in his recent budget presentation this year, the leader of the opposition and the opposition spokesman on finance both claim that the improved performance of tax revenue is due to the tax reform work of the PNP. So we need to ask ourselves, is it the PNP that is responsible for Jamaicans paying more taxes? In the 2023 budget, the leader of the opposition complained that the government was moving too fast to reduce debt. He advocated that we abandon the fiscal responsible path, use $40 billion, in other words, go and party with the rent money, money that we're supposed to use for debt repayment, to spend on temporary relief. In this budget, when he sees the amazing benefit of reducing the debt to 68% and the amazing fiscal space that is created for us to actually do sustainable deal with the relief effort, he now comes claiming that the reduction in debt is due to the PNP's faithfulness to fiscal prudence. This reminds me of the classic tale of what we in Jamaica sometimes regretfully call buttless father, who caused the mother so much pain and then abandons the child. But when the child grows up to be successful, out of the blue they turn up to claim paternity and associate with success. This leader of the opposition is a man of convenience, flip-flopping between prudence and popularity when it suits him. 1 minute he disowns the child of fiscal discipline, and then the next he claims the child of fiscal discipline. The mother remembers the pain of FinSAC and the high interest rate policy, the largest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich, and she knows that she cannot trust this worthless man. So the DNA test was done. The DNA test was done. The results are in. When it comes to 15-year-old fiscal discipline, PNP, you are not the father. Yes, your name call, but it is another goaling that is the father. Madam Speaker, jokes aside, Madam Speaker, jokes aside, 6,200. This latest 6,200. I was just checking if you were listening. 6,200. This latest increase to 16,000 represents an unprecedented 158% increase over 9 years. Cumulative inflation over that period remains well below this rate.
Yes, guys, so those were the key moments that I took away from the debate yesterday. All that I've said here to you about the Prime Minister, explaining the FinSac thing and connecting Mark Golding and PJ and Omar Davis and Bunting to that, and then giving Portia, Dr. Phillips, their flowers and, being nice and courteous toward Philip Paulwell. That is very clear indication that the PNP, as it is today with those leading it, they do not embody the PNP that came after the FinSac people, which is after PJ. You understand? So the Prime Minister was able to successfully make that distinction. Now, what does this do to Mark Golding? It damaged him. Anybody who didn't know the role that Mark Golding played in FinSac and what that was about, Andrew Holness pretty much laid it out. The other thing that I find appalling still is how can you walk out on the parliament when the government of the day has announced something good, an increase in minimum wage for your average, your working class people? What does that say about Mark Golding? You know what it says to me? Mark Golding had his feelings hurt very early on in the debate. The moment Andrew Holness dropped the FinSac bomb, it lick him chip. You see him there on him phone the whole time, couldn't come off. He's so ashamed to look up at the parliament and to look at the Jamaican people. And he can't deny any of it because it's true. And he will never explain it to the Jamaican people because it can't. Okay? So by the time Andrew got to the part where he's saying to Jamaica, hey, there's going to be a raise coming for you minimum wage earners, that even make Mark Golding more infuriated. Like, how dare you? I'm trying to farm the government here. You, black boy, you gotta tell the black people them the country say I gotta give them increase in minimum wage. Me not stand a chance. You diss me in front of the country. You come friend of people on my side. I come speak nicely and highly of my predecessor, alienating me, making me look like the bad guy. I'm out of here. And you see him fan them off when him come out. Him alone walk out. Nobody not follow him. He probably would have wished that others would have. I want to tell you that I think the Gleaner published today that Mark Golding denied walking out of the parliament because of the minimum wage announcement. Mark Golding deliberately walked out. Him fanned them off. We see the video. So yes, it was deliberate. But what he does when he walked out at that time is he disrespected the Prime Minister, disrespect the House of Parliament and the people in it, disrespect the process. Mark Golding has no regard for the black people and the majority of black people in the country. That if you never know it before now, just see it right now. Him not care nothing about them and what the government want to say and any kind of incentive for anybody and any kind of, victory for the Jamaican people. He does not care. He doesn't share in that with you people. When I say you people, I'm talking about my fellow Jamaicans. So that's what we saw. Now, I have a prediction. I could be right, I could be wrong. But I don't think Mark Golding is going to go into a debate with Andrew Holness. Because him can't live down the FinSac thing. Him can't take criticism. You see, Andrew Holness sat there patiently and respectfully when he was on his feet just a few days ago, criticizing the hell out of him. And Andrew sit there and him smile and him shake him head and him smile again and he did not walk out. Mark Golding cannot take criticism. Him feel like say him alone supposed to diss up people. He cannot stand there and hear the government say, I did well doing this. Because as you can see, Andrew say, we always give Portia flowers and Peter Phillips. Why wanna come in here? Julian in particular. I wanna notice that Julian Robinson never in there. Angela Brownbrook never in there. Why wanna come in here talking about say a PNP do this and PNP do this, as if to say the government didn't do anything. No, guys, you know that is not true and that is wrong. So Mark Golding I cannot see Mark Golding after yesterday March 20th, 2025. Me cannot see Mark Golding standing on a debate stage with Andrew Holness. Mark Golding's, he doesn't have the characteristics of a leader. He's awkward. It's as if nobody has ever held him accountable or criticized him. He can't take that stuff. He wasn't ready. Him not walk barefoot when him little then. Make me put it that way there. We in Jamaica, when we say we used to walk barefoot, we know what it mean. Right? Mark Golding never used to walk barefoot. Him can't manage them something here. Peter Bunting them know it. PG them know it. Dayton them know. The whole of them know it. They know this. And you know what, guys? As much as how I am speaking facts and speaking truth, I feel sorry for Mark Golding, you know. After seeing this play out yesterday, I feel sorry for him. You know why? Mark Golding seemed to have a developmental problem, I'm not the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist come tell you something more there, me not have trouble that. But from my perspective, I think Mark Golding he has a problem. And to put him out there as a spectacle and to see the parliament laughing at him and to see how hard he's taking it, that's not something I can laugh about. It's really sad watching it. And me I tell you, so with friends like them, people they will put him up there for lead. You don't need enemies. People been telling them for years, move Mark Golding. Don't put Bunting there. The two of them are liability. Them did in the FinSac something. Them is going to be a beaten stick. Them cannot convince the people otherwise. But no, them fight for keep him there. Dayton Campbell, all of them fight for keep him there. This is their karma. I'm sorry. It really is. Guys, let me know what you all think in the comments. Do you think that we will see Mark Golding go into a debate and in the election with Andrew? Or will he quit because he can't manage this? This is Jamaica Politics Uncovered. Keep it locked here. Sorry for the late updates. I wanted to come on last night, but the allergies did dip on me. I made have something early to do this morning, so I couldn't talk to Uno. But we're going to talk more about this later on. Have yourselves a good evening. Thank you for watching.